Hey y'all, Fred here. Thanks so much for joining me today. We are finally getting around to some cut testing on the Chaves. This is the Ultramar Redencion 229 Kickstop Tonto. That's a whole bunch. I'm not even sure if I'll fit that on the screen, to be honest with you. I'm going to let you guys in on a little inside baseball. Your buddy Fred is sitting here with a table full of knives, and I've got a bunch of cut testing to do, so I'm batch processing these videos. Nobody thinks about that when you're watching videos that, hey, the guys recording these videos may have recorded like 6 videos in one day, just getting a whole bunch batched up and queued up, ready to go out. And so that's what we're doing here. I'm kind of winging it. I'm trying to get through these things fast, so bear with me and we'll get all the way through this thing. I did do a full review on this knife. Let me start by also saying this is a replica. I got this. Where did I get this from? I think I got this from OK Knives. Pretty sure that's where I got it, as a matter of fact. These are all over the place in all different kinds of versions and renditions of it. We'll talk about this knife in more detail, the good, the bad, the ugly, things I like and don't like about this knife, but I did want to at least mention this is not the real deal. This is a replica, so if that kind of thing just turns you off, maybe this is not the right video for you. Otherwise, if you want to see how this thing cuts and how well it holds up because you're thinking about getting one or you got one and just want to see, that's what we're here for. I did do a full review on this video. I'm going to put a link to that up in the corner if you want to go and watch the full video. Otherwise, we're going to go through these specs pretty fast and quick if I can. This thing, as you can see down the right-hand side, hits all of the original size, shape, all of that pretty well. This is a good full-size knife, 8¼ inches. You've got a blade that's 3.63 total, a little under 3.5 to the cutting edge. You can see you got a little up there. Closed, a little over 4.5 inches long. This is a good full-size knife. I have a size large hand, so if that gives you a sense of how it'll fit, certainly extra large and maybe even XL, and you can even put your finger up here on this little shelf if you like and fit a double XL on there. This is a real man's knife, but let's finish the specs first. Blade thickness is 160 thousandths. That's pretty true to the original, so it's a nice thick beefy blade. Got a nice swedge down there, makes it look a little thinner than it really is. The handle thickness, a little over 1/2 inch, definitely fills the hand. Satin finish blade. This is a compound hollow ground Tonto blade. If you haven't already figured that out, this is the hollow ground portion. It does get very thin and slicey. You've got a nice thick beefy pokey tip on the blade that is actually still fairly sharp. Certainly plenty sharp for any kind of pokey stabby stuff that you might want to do. We'll do a little testing with that part on the cut testing as well. These scales are true titanium scales, as is the pocket clip. The real one comes in M390. This blade is 9CR18. I have not resharpened it, so I don't really know how hard or soft it is. That's one of the things we're here to find out today. The weight on this thing is 6.7 ounces. This is definitely going to be one of the heaviest knives that you're going to carry. And that's what I mean when I say this is a real man's knife. Somebody who's not afraid to carry a good, heavy-duty, thick, heavy knife. There is no weight reduction, no milling in these scales on either side. So these are just solid, thick titanium slabs. And the original is the exact same way. It's not like they cut corners here on this one in any way, shape, or form. Very true to the original. Even the weight is the same size. This is obviously a frame lock. This has got a pretty good lockup portion on here. It does have a steel insert. You can see that little line right there, and the screw there that holds it in. So it does have a steel over travel stop. It does have ceramic bearings, nice and smooth. You know, like every knife, it takes a little bit of breaking in. I have dialed this one in and then Loctited that pivot screw right where I want it, so it doesn't drop too freely, but as you can see, it absolutely will drop by itself down there, and you got to be careful because there's not much room. You got to catch that blade up here, because if you wait too long, you're going to end up with that blade going into your thumbnail and tearing it up, as we have all done, I'm sure. The real one of this thing comes in at $410. I got this for $62. I did measure behind the edge down here on the hollow ground part. Obviously, it would, wouldn't be silly, but it would not much point. This is really thick up here. It's going to be like 30 thousandths or 40 thousandths, 19 thousandths behind the edge on the hollow ground. We'll do some cut testing here in just a second. Let's do some quick overall size comparisons. You can see this is a full-size knife. There's obviously the PM2, the OK knife version, and a pair of 3. This is essentially the exact same length. It is actually the exact same length. They're both 8¼ inches. Cutting edge is going to be a little bit more on here because you have that extra tanto portion of the blade. In case you don't have a bunch of Spydercos laying around and you're not a fan of that, let's try the Civivi Vision, or how about our $10 Ozark Trail D2 knife. This is bigger than both of those by a good margin. All right, some of the pros and cons. This is, again, pretty true to the original in almost every way. So if you want to experience what the real one is like before you sink $100 to $410 into one, this is maybe a good way for you to do that and just get a sense of how does this feel in my hand, in my pocket. One of the things that I will note, first and foremost, the most important thing, or one of the most important things that I haven't even called attention to, is the Kickstop. So the Kickstop is a flipper design by a man named Lee Williams. So different designer than obviously Chaves, who designed the knife. Lee Williams invented the Kickstop. It's been used on several different knives. What it is as it closes down, it does not come through on the blade. Gosh, do I even have, I don't even have one on my table. Oh, I have this positron I can show you. So the positron here has a flipper tab. When it comes through from the top, it protrudes from the bottom. That does not exist here. That flipper tab drops down into here, is basically a free-floating design. It's got its own channel in there, and it drops into this position. That's where it stops. Let me put that positron away. So you've got no flipper tab sticking out the bottom as that portion of the blade comes through, meaning you can get your finger up here. So really cool feature on there. This is, again, a real man's knife. You gotta not want like the most ergonomic knife. It's not lightweight, certainly going to weigh down your pockets, but it's thick, it fills the hand. It's even a little more angular than I would like, right? This is not the soft curves of, you know, a PM2, in this case an OK81, or so many of the other knives that are out there that are contoured all the way around with chamfered edges. These are chamfered, but it's still very blocky and brick-like. Now, that being said, it's not uncomfortable in any way. This clip could be a hot spot. We're going to find that out today. They do send another normal clip, but I don't know why you would want to put a regular, you know, just a plain version without the skull. When you've got a Chaves knife, you wear the Chaves clip, right? Blocky, heavy, not the most ergonomic. We're going to find out. We'll see how this jimping holds up. It does grab. I mean, you can certainly get the meat of your thumb in there. So it's probably going to work just fine. We're going to find out. That's what we're here to see. And then ultimately, does this 9CR hold up at all? Again, I did not sharpen this knife, but it's pretty sharp right out of the box. I'm going to give this a 9.5. because I definitely have, you know, when I sharpen a knife, it's now super sharp. Here's the problem with this knife, too. I can't really sharpen this well because, let's just zoom in. There's no sharpening choil relief here is the problem. It's going to develop a smile. When you get that at the right angle, it looks like there's a little bit here. You could probably sharpen it, but if you want to reprofile this in any way, it's going to start eating into this. And because just of the way that's shaped, I can't even really cut a good choil in there. I mean, I can, but it will look artificial. It won't look natural. So, you know, that's why I didn't sharpen it first and foremost. I'm not going to carry this a lot. I just wanted the style and design because it's a classic and I wanted it in my collection. Is it sharp enough? Yes, it's sharp enough. How about that tanto side? It'll cut, you know, for a big, thick tanto, it'll cut. It's not going to be, I doubt I will be able to get through rope. I'm going to try the rope cutting with that tanto edge. We'll see how well that does. That's what we're going to see. Actually, let me just stop gabbing. Let's just get over to the table and start cutting. And as always, we start with the cardboard test. I'm going to kind of choke forward, I guess, up as close as I can to that blade. We got 414 square inches of cardboard spread across several different sheets here. I'm kind of running out of cardboard boxes. I have to make do with whatever we get from Amazon. At any rate, I'm going to speed this up pretty quick. The cardboard cutting actually goes well. The hollow ground blade cuts through that cardboard, no problems at all. You know, nice, big, thick, heavy-duty knife. It rips through cardboard with no issues whatsoever. It's like you would expect it to be. It's not the most ergonomic knife in the world. Big, badass knife. Feels good in the hand. Feels solid. Tears through. That hollow grind makes short work of anything like this. No worries. Real question here is going to be, how did the blade hold up after that? First pass is not really happening. So this is a little unexpected. Maybe I'm just holding the paper wrong. Nope, not holding the paper wrong. So I can cut through it kind of fast sometimes, but wow, this is not good. This is a really bad start. I'm kind of surprised, actually. We'll see. Maybe it's me. Sometimes the next test does better, but I can't give that better than a 5 right now. This isn't really a graded test. This is just to see the cutting angle for draw cuts. You can see that tonto blade. You're going to have to go way up high to get on the primary tip. That is not going to be comfortable, so I'm going to try that secondary tip, the tonto tip, as it were. It works okay. Doesn't kind of work outstandingly, but it can work. No issues, but it's not going to be, you know, great for draw cuts. All right, now I wanted to try cutting with the tonto tip. How sharp is it? I mentioned, you know, it's kind of thick, and it's not the best sharpening job in the whole world from the factory, and that thing is not even going through this reinforced flex PVC. And here's the problem with this knife too. There's no belly, which means if you can't cut with the tonto tip, you have to raise it up on a board in order to cut down. I haven't tested many knives recently where I was absolutely forced to raise the hose up, let alone the rope, which I'm sure I'm going to have to do as well, up on a board just to make cuts on it. Now, you'll notice it went through the hose, no problem at all. That hollow ground blade still plenty sharp enough to go through, you know, a plastic reinforced PVC hose, and the tonto tip does short work of chopping these little hose bits into smaller bits, but that's not very practical in most of our everyday lives. We don't really need that particular cutting skill. So let's see if we did any worse or better on the cutting test, or on the blade edge retention, and you can see, yeah, it's gotten worse, if that can be said, about how this started out. I'm looking to see now if the tonto tip, yeah, it's dull too. Wow, shocker. So yeah, it's gone from bad to worse here, but I'm a glutton for punishment, so I keep trying. We're going to knock that down to a 4. Again, we're going to have to raise it up on the board here just to make these cuts at all. This, I think, is part technique and part blade, the struggle that I have here. What I have realized, look, if you notice, I'm knocking this table over with force. I'm really putting a lot of force to try to get this to cut. I'm trying to hope a good sharp blade will just pop right through that rope, no sawing required. And what I realized at the end here is if I put all my weight into it and push down really fast with a forward motion, it'll kind of pop through that rope. So, you know, I'm going to say still not great. Now let's see how we did on edge retention. And, oh, I almost made it through there. No, not any better. Not any better at all. Didn't even use the tonto tips. There's no point even testing that. Yeah, it got worse. If that was possible, it was, and it did, and here we are at a 3. All right, keep on trucking. Let's see how we do in the wood. This is really more about ergonomics than cutting power. I'm kind of, again, choked forward, got my thumb on that really thick jimping, which is not the most comfortable thing in the world, but you know, if you're a big badass man carrying a big badass knife, you should have a tough enough thumb to be able to put up with that jimping. This is a pretty hard stick, and a lot of knives, even my sharpest knives, have a hard time getting through here. It actually does bite into the wood really good. That hollow ground blade, this is another place where that does come in pretty handy. So if you need to do some stick cutting and whittling, this might be a great knife for you. You can see the divots it put in my thumb, but overall the ergonomics are not nearly as bad as I thought. The clip is no issue at all, and really no major hot spots. And for those of you who are worried about me hacking on this blade, it's not going to get any worse than it was, right? But what you're about to find out, ironically, even after hacking on the blade, it actually got a little bit better after the wood. And I've seen this in a bunch of tests before. We've seen this, if you've seen a lot of my tests, that for some reason cutting the wood seems to like realign the edge of the steel somehow. I'm sure there's somebody out there who knows this and can explain it to me. I think a couple of you have tried, but I'm just too thick-skulled to understand it. However, this often is the case, but it's not really that good. So we're only knocking it back up to a 4. Let's drop this thing up and see if we can at least recover it. And as always, I have my dual-sided strop. I'm going to speed this thing way up because with a tanto knife, you have to first drop the long straight edge. You can't cross over into the tanto tip. So then I have to do 10 strokes per side on the tanto tip. So I'm really doing like 40 strokes per side. So I sped this thing up quite a bit. I did wipe the blade off very quickly in between those. If you want to really slow that video down and watch it, 16 micron on the brown, 6 micron on the green. Let's see. And yeah, you know what? It's a heck of a lot better than it was a minute ago. So I got to give it points for that. You know, I'm probably going to be a little harsh on it right now just because the whole thing has been such a disappointment on the edge retention. Although I don't know that it should be, really. It's, you know, it's a replica knife. Although OK Knives usually does a little better than this, but they didn't make the knife. They just bought it from somewhere and resold it. So I'm going to give this thing a 7. Maybe that's a little harsh. Maybe it would have been an 8. All right, let's take a look at the numbers and wrap this thing up. Far right side in the blue column, you see today's test results along with the last 10 previous test results. Somebody made a comment, and I think I will do this as soon as I get some free time, is to put all of our test results into some kind of like large giant spreadsheet and put it up on a post that everybody can go and look at and play with and look through all the previous tests and see how they all went. At any rate, this is a 9CR18 MOV steel. That's what they said when I bought it. They did not give an HRC rating scale on it, and I understand now why. If it was a good, properly heat treated, that should be a 4.5 on Knife Steel Nerd's edge retention score. I did not sharpen this knife first. I gave it a 9 out of 10 on the sharpness scale to start out with. Wasn't the best factory grind. It wasn't terrible either. It cut paper pretty easily. So there, you know, yeehaw for that. 414 square inches after the cardboard. I had to knock this thing down to a 5 out of 10. Did our 5 hose cuts raised up on the board. After that, it went down to a 4 out of 10. Did my 10 rope cuts, and then it was a 3 out of 10. For some reason, after cutting on the wood board just a little bit, it raised up maybe to a 4 out of 10. Obviously, that's all very subjective. 20 strokes per side on the strop, as we always do, brought it back to about a 7, maybe an 8 if you want to be a little more generous. I rated this as terrible performance. Very disappointing is my note. This thing was very dull. After the cardboard, it only got worse from there. The tanto portion of the blade is really too thick for any kind of real-world cutting tasks that I think might be useful. Maybe some of y'all have a better use case for that. I had to raise both the hose and the wood up, hose and the rope up on that wood board in order to cut. So here's where it's further less effective for an EDC type of knife with no belly whatsoever. And there's very few knives I guess I have in my collection that are like that. I think maybe only 1 or 2 that I can recall. You can't rock through any kind of cut, whether it's a hose or the rope. So you have to raise that material up on something just to have any chance of cutting it at all, which makes it just less useful overall, in my personal opinion, at least for the kind of, you know, EDC uses that I have in this world. It did terrible on the hose. Not terrible, actually did just fine on the hose, because the hose is hard plastic and the knife is sharp enough to push through a hard piece of plastic hose, right? So not terrible on that, just inconvenient. The rope wasn't very good. You know, 5 out of 10 maybe. If you really put all your weight into it with the rope raised up on a thin enough board that you can make a cut with the flat part of the hollow ground blade and really push hard into it, it will pop through the rope. Does that sound like a good sharp knife should be for any of us, right? Is that what you want? Not me. At any rate, wood test was fine. Actually cut deeply into the wood. That hollow ground blade does want to go deep into cuts. Same thing with the cardboard. A bright spot in all of this is that the ergonomics were not nearly as bad as I was expecting them to be. You know, it's a big, heavy, blocky, squarish kind of chunk of titanium. I was expecting it to have a lot more hot spots, and it really didn't at all, in all fairness to it. I was pleasantly surprised at no issues, no real hot spots. That, again, that thumb jimping can definitely bite into your thumb. You know, those of us with soft office, you know, desktop warrior type hands, but it wasn't that bad overall. The big, you know, skull pocket clip, I thought that would be a hot spot. Nope, didn't feel it at all in my test, so that was good. Ergonomically is good. You know, weight-wise, it's not too good. But ergonomically, no real hot spots, so there you go, yeehaw for that. You know, it's not a fidgety knife, really, because you have to be careful when you drop that blade. It will drop, you know, now that it's broken in a little bit, it does drop cleanly on drop shot action. That's pretty good. Got it dialed in on that, but I don't consider this a fidgety knife. I wouldn't just sit at my desk and not pay attention to opening and closing this knife. You're going to lose a thumb tip doing that. So it's not real fidgety. The edge retention was really horrible. I mean, this is probably some of the worst edge retention of almost any knife that I've tested. Maybe a few at the beginning were pretty bad down at this level, but this is really rock bottom. So I'm giving it a 2 on edge retention. I mean, it's still sharp enough at the end of these tests. If you ground it across your hand, you're going to still cut your hand. But, you know, compared to all the other knives, this is a 2 out of a 10. And EDC, I just personally can't give it more than a 3. That's very subjective. It's way too heavy. You know, it's twice the weight of any other knife that I carry. It's big, it's blocky, it's bulky. It has no edge retention. It's not fidgety. It's inconvenient, really, because it has no belly at all. I have to raise things up on a piece of wood if I want to cut things. The Tonto tip is too thick to cut anything useful other than maybe an Amazon box tape or something. So to me, it's just not a knife that I want to carry. So there you go. In case you ever wondered if your boy Fred gives honest and negative reviews to knives that don't work well, here you go. Here's your sign. I'm curious to know, I know a bunch of you guys have had this knife, have gotten this as well, because I know a bunch of you said, hey, have you gotten this? And you've asked me to review it. I'd like to know what you guys have experienced. Did you have this same experience? Did yours get dull? I mean, I don't know how many of y'all are actually putting it through the same kind of cutting abuse that I'm doing here in this test, but I'd really love to know how y'all's have fared. Are y'all experiencing anything better or worse? What's your thoughts on this knife? Y'all's turn to speak up on this. Hit me up down in the comments. Let me know what you think. If you're not already, we would love to have you join our little band of renegades. Please hit that subscribe notification bell. Please throw me a thumbs up on your way out the door. That really helps little channels like me get found on the YouTubes. Otherwise, I appreciate y'all. Look forward to chatting with you in the comments. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.